Happy Sunday. How's everybody doing? Oh, just trying to get motivated. Okay. Yeah. Hope everybody's having a great weekend. Weather's good in the Midwest finally. Actually, it's too hot, so uh, gonna get started here shortly. Gonna let maybe a few people fall in. I know everybody's out enjoying the day. Basketball is about to come on. Shout out to the Hoopers. So I know a lot of people are watching the basketball games. We're just gonna check it out on the replay. So long story short, I'm studying for a few certifications, and I was doing AWS previously, so I just said let's make it into a video. So um, that's what I decided to do as a ex-college professor. I'm always down for the PowerPoint. So let's see what's going on. It's just coming on my phone, but a little slowly, but it is what it is. Once again, you know how we do it. If you got any security questions, just drop those in the chat and we can security or technology. We can go in over it. Like once again, so while people follow in, I like to go over the videos. Going to the SOC, man. What's going on? Is that Security Operations Center SOC or SOC as in Security Compliance AO? Which SOC is that? I think that's the Security Operations Center SOC. So, appreciate you coming. Blind guy, his wife in their life. So which SOC are you referring to? Security Operations Center. That's probably the only job. What is going on? Down to earth. Hello. Yep. That's probably the only job I've never done SOC, and I never done red team. I do red team a little bit because when I set up stuff for the blue team, I attack it myself right before the bad guys can get it. Shout out to the SOC. My SOC doesn't like me. All right, the SOC I do security views for SOCs though, because a lot of times depending on what client compliance you're doing, of course you got to review the SOC to make sure they're not leaking any data. So while people are coming, today we're going to talk about AWS Network. Quick overview. Talk about their wide area LAN, how they do their network. It's quite ingenious across the whole planet, right? They have their actually own network in there. So we'll talk a little bit about the downsides of that inside now. Just one video I did this week. Like I said, I've been grinding on my studying for my certification. I passed one of the smaller ones, so I'm getting ready to take the big one. Yeah, I'm really early into my career, so I believe the knock is. Oh, that's a great place to start. I'm at this. Oh, you're 100% right. SOC and knock is a great place to start in cybersecurity. It's actually a step up from, of course, help desk. Help desk is a good place to start, but you actually in the security operating system. I don't know what you do. Hopefully, you're looking at some logs, some SIMs. For us too, is working with your different agencies or divisions to go over their disaster recovery plan. I do a lot of disaster recovery plans. Part of that is business continuity. So now you're 100% right. Shout out to you at the knock now. So yeah, no, that's a great place to start. So for my nostalgia, shout out to the little older people. Is I used to own an iPod, so Apple just discontinued to making iPods. I think in 2006 and 7, both of those years, they sold 50 million each one of those years, which I thought was unbelievable. So shout out to the old people. Now just doing layer one troubleshooting, SSH, and say, hey, that's a good place to start, man. Get some of that Cisco knowledge, man. We're going to talk a little bit about Cisco too, because part of the AWS network is you connecting your own prem to the AWS cloud and you making it look like one network, right? And we know, and I ordered VPN tunnels from AWS to Cisco routers from different clients, smaller clients, big clients. So everybody wants a VPN tunnel from on-prem to whatever cloud you're using. That's AWS, Azure, or Google, right? VPN is really one of the basic steps to getting those two to look like one network. So no, that's a great place to start. AO, I wouldn't look down on that, man. That's a great place. Doing that layer one troubleshooting, SSH and Cisco. Everybody know that's the 800-pound gorilla in the game. So that's definitely a place to be. I appreciate that. Go check out one of my favorite channels. They're a lot more on schedule than me. Blind Guy, his wife, their life. They have a lot of different variety shows. I always tease them. Trying to get me to eat better, trying to get me to eat more vegetables. I always tease them, talking about they trying to get me to become vegetarian. That's incorrect. They're trying to get me to add a little salad to my diet, which is definitely a good thing I need to do. So, Black Guy, his wife, your life, drop your channel in there too. So everybody go subscribe to them. Like I said, great variety shows, everything from making money to mental health to eating right. Just a variety of great topics are in there. So once again, shout out to Steve Jobs, who passed away, the ultimate salesman. One of the great things about the iPod is getting music, right? Before then, people were having tapes and CDs, and people forgot Windows Zoom was before iPod, and it was just a horrible interface. It wasn't very good. So they created a beautiful, sleek interface. Just easy to download music. Especially once they got their Windows version, you could sync your iPad to your PC. I used to have 10,000 songs. I thought I was the man. So just a beautiful picture. Just a beautiful piece of technology. Once again, Apple is great at interface, integration among their apps, just bar none. We know now with streaming services and your iPhone or your Android, you can put your music on there. But most people do streaming services now, right? I pay a little extra. I got the YouTube. No, I take that back. I'm sorry. I got the Amazon streaming service. Just a little couple more dollars on top of my Prime, and I get new music. The crazy thing is I pay $5. I don't even listen to music much anymore. But every now and then I go old school and I want to go back to the 90s. And listen to some stuff, or some of the new stuff is cool today. I was listening to Kendrick Lamar's new song, so just watching him kind of mature into a different type of guy. But once again, the Apple iPod is done. That's the cool thing about technology. Creative destruction, right? It came in 20 years later, it's destroyed. But what? We got streaming service from Apple and all the big guys, better service, more powerful, more features. Right. So that's the thing with technology is, and even at my age, that's why I'm studying for my search. You got to keep up and keep moving, right? There's new technology, some hot, some the new streaming services in there. And as an artist too, right? You really don't need a record label. You can go to SoundCloud, produce your own stuff, give Apple a cut. Lil Wayne was making $1 million when he was the 15 selling out his trunk. You can make $1 million just selling directly from iTunes and Android. You can put your music up there and they take a cut, right? So just different ways to make money in this new generation. In the trenches of IT, I want to Aws best. Oh, you sound like me. That's the best way you can learn, man. I started from the bottom and I started putting tapes on the mainframe. AO, you don't know nothing about that. That's before your time, but now that's how you learn, man. And once again, Cisco is definitely the thing you need to learn from and on. So I'm sure you're familiar with Network Bruh and all the big networking guys. DeJuan Lightfoot. So I'm usually on their channel. I'm really with Network Bruh. He actually labs every night. I think I saw you over there, but so yeah, I'm definitely networking. And 2AO is networking is actually the basis of security, right? Networking, controlling your traffic, 3-tier. Now everybody's going software-defined network. We'll talk a little bit about that. And the new thing now is zero trust, NXX, right? So now the object is your network, right? From all that. So even networking is kind of morphing in. So let's hit these slides. Like I said, this for me for my certification. Shout out to AO. Starting from the bottom. So I started off as a junior programmer, so I know what that looks like. I really enjoy that. What's up, Helmet? Peace. Indeed, without networking, hackers can't hack open ports, all that. It's all you were 100% right, and we'll talk about that. First thing is close all your ports, right? 65,000 plus, you should have those open, right? So that, and like you said, the network is the basis of that, controlling your traffic with zero trust. How are you moving in? What ports you have open? What subnets do you have open from a three-tier architecture? NXX. What objects do you have open? Right, for that, controlling your north, south, east, and west traffic. Right, so all that's on there. So we'll hear a little bit about that, and I'll point out where, like I said, Cisco's the 800-pound gorilla in there, right? That's the bag everybody's trying to get. So these are some of the things we're going to go over at a high level. Then we're going to drill down, not super deep, but just sitting there. Leave port 22 closed. And not facts, man. But everybody's SSHing, right? So everybody's SSHing in the box. So that's the one you attack because you know it's going to be open, though. Hopefully they got keys or MFA when you log on, right? So just not one authentication to get that port to 22. So we're going to talk a little bit about VPC connectivity from a network standpoint, manage VPNs, direct connects plus VPN, cloud VPNs, which is virtual private network, transit VPCs, VPC peerings, private linking endpoints, right? So this is basically just networking inside AWS, right? So my man's on the Cisco. So a lot of times when I set up a VPC in the cloud, I need that to communicate to my on-prem infrastructure, right? So even though I'm doing S3 or a database, that information has to get back to on-prem, right? So because my office is using it, be my satellite offices or my district offices, if you're in a big enough company, right? So those two networks need to communicate, right? So there's different ways to do it. Known as test, there's a lot of ways to do it, it seems like. So long story short, this is the world, and those dots are where AWS cloud spans. An availability zone is a data center or multiple data centers. So each one of those dots is a availability zone / data center. There are 26 graphic regions around the world. There's 24 more coming. They're in Australia, Canada, India, Israel, New Zealand, Spain, Switzerland, and the UAE, United Arab Emirates. Right. So most companies are putting their data up in Amazon or Azure because it costs money to run a data center. That's power, that's servers, that's manpower, that's everything from wiring, like my man's doing the Cisco. So you got to wire your own data centers, right? So a lot of people are turning it over to Amazon, right? Not everything, but they're downsizing their big data centers because they don't want to use the capital expenditures to get those spun up, right? If I spin up a data center, I got to buy the building, I got to rack it, I got to buy all the networking equipment. Once again, shout out to Cisco, routers, all that stuff, right? If I just rent it from AWS, I don't have any of that capital expenditures, right? I'm just going to use one of these data centers in the United States. What's up, Wally? I shot you a couple emails. I'm just going to use one of these data centers in the United States, and I'm going to save myself capital expenditures, right? So the cool thing is I did a little work in Silicon Valley. I'm about to hopefully start getting my grind on and start consulting a little more side on. When I was out there, the first thing they said is, we don't own hardware anymore. If you're going to come up with a new idea or new features, you're going to put it in the Amazon or Azure because we don't want to own hardware. So venture capitals in the old days, they used to have to buy hardware, buy data centers, and spin up these ideas. And if those ideas fail, right, they own those machines, and those machines become obsolete, right? So now you just rent them from Microsoft Azure, AWS, which is Amazon, or Google, right, which is GCP, right? You could just rent computer power like it's water. I put my app up there. If it gets hot, I can spin up 1,000 host VCs. If it doesn't get hot, I'll just spin them down and give them back to Amazon, right? I failed. I don't have to own those capital. I won't own those capital expenditures, right? So Amazon is speeding up data centers around the world, and how that really came up is a super quick history lesson. Is Amazon, we know, was booming forever. They bought all this equipment for Christmas. After Christmas stopped, they had all this extra hardware, right? During Christmas, everybody orders everything after Christmas. So instead of you need 100 servers during Christmas, after Christmas, you might need 2, right? Because people are not ordering any much, right? Ordering that much, right? So they decided to rent out the other 98 for small businesses, right? Then it just got popular and it just kind of blew up. A lot of people don't know Amazon was losing money selling books and stuff because they had to buy so many data centers. The thing that was supporting that was AWS, them renting out computer power to small companies. I think it was making $4 billion a year. So that was super hot. So a quick lesson. So another part of that is they have big data centers and they have smaller data centers that are in major metropolitan areas. So why would they do that is if you have an app and you're worried about speed, if your data center is in Ohio, but your user are in Iowa, right? That's a jump. So they start spinning up AWS local zones or AWS infrastructure deployment that places compute, storage, and databases closer to large populations. Industries, IT centers enable you to deliver your application in single-digit milliseconds to your users, right? AWS to the rescue. You can get books and computer equipment. Facts, right? So we got these big, humongous data centers the size of 3 football fields, but if we need some in New York, we got something smaller, right? So you could put your application in there. You could put your website in there so you can get milliseconds. Then as it talks to that smaller data center, it goes back to the bigger data center, right? If it needs more information or more power, right? So that's the beauty of that, right? So you can use local zones to run such services as Elastic Cloud, Compute, FX, relational database service. Once again, geographic proximity to your users, right? So here's a list of those, right? So remember, we had the big data centers. Now we got all these smaller data centers in large metropolitan areas, right? So if you need something quick with milliseconds, right, we got some data center for you, right? So that's the beauty of it now, because people want speed, people want milliseconds of power, right? So you can just put it in a smaller data center, then it'll call back to the bigger data center. Let's see. When you attend the lives, you get to take the search at no cost. Oh, I guess I didn't know that. Thanks, Helmet. I'm gonna have to go check that out. Let's see. By the way, folks, quick note: you sign up for Microsoft Azure Virtual Training Fundamentals. I'm focusing on AWS, but Microsoft is good. Two of my big clients use a ton of AWS, man, because it's easy to go and put your Outlook up there, your Word. Microsoft is pushing you to that. So no, which one are you focusing on, Helmet? You trying to get the Azure, or are you trying to get them all? Oh, whoa, which live? Yeah, Helmet, which live? Put some more on that. Microsoft Azure. I think he's talking about Azure, AO. Yeah, Helmet, you talking about Azure? So yeah, so here's if you look, there's a ton of, I think, up there. So those are the data centers. We're just really focusing on the US though. Right there is it for the tech events. Yep, Azure. One sec. Okay, cool. Put it in the chat. Let me see. I think you got a wrench helmet. Let me see. Yep, you got a wrench helmet. Drop it on in the chat. Make sure I'm not missing anybody. So once again, local zones. We're going from the bigger data centers. So let's say I have an app. I could put I'm a Java guy. I could put my JSP and my React on a web server in a local zone and have it call back to my database back into the larger data center. So when they first hit my web app, it's gonna pop up click. And when I hit save or spin, it's gonna shoot back to the larger data center that we look. The cool thing is I can do that over the internet, or I can actually use Amazon's infrastructure, meaning Amazon's got their own network that they wire throughout the United States, right? So I could say pay a little extra and just have it go on AWS's network, so I can skip the congestion of the internet, right? that's one thing you can super pay for as part of Amazon's pay thing. Shout out for Helmet. Azure is kind of like fourth on my list right now, Helmet, but I appreciate that. Everybody go check out, like I said, Azure is super hot too. I think actually they might actually end up passing AWS, even though AWS just won $1 billion from the government. So I don't know, I might have to think that. So AWS Wavelength is just another infrastructure. If you're doing a mobile app or doing AI or you're doing something that needs super speed, what Wavelength is infrastructure offering optimized mobile edge computing, wave zones or AWS infrastructure deployed that are embedded in AWS compute with the communication service providers, 5G networks or applications traffic from 5G devices, which application running in wavelength zones and the telecommunication network. Let me unhide that real quick. Avoid latency and application from a modern 5G network. So we know everybody's rolling out 5G, Verizon, T-Mobile. So what that means is Amazon actually has compute power with the mobile carriers, right? So instead of it going back to the local or back to the data center, it actually has compute power at Verizon's data center and T-Mobile. So as soon as your phone hits their app, your app is coming up, right? Because they're you sharing infrastructure with the exact communication carrier. So that's the big region, that's the internet. It's the wavelength right there is communication service provider. They actually have hardware in their data center at, once again, Verizon and T-Mobile. So you get crazy milliseconds of speed, right? So the question is, what apps need that type of speed? Right, when you're talking about it, okay, what type of apps use that? That 24 class with various dates, that's cool. So let's peek over here. So what apps would you need to have that type of speed, right? If we just talking about machine learning assisted diagnostics helps for healthcare, inference of edge computing from processing, analyzing videos, images, data in real time. So a lot of times people are going to doctors via video, right? So they can scan that video for issues. We know self-driving cars and trucks are coming, right? We can't have any lag in that, right? So you need that connected, hitting that 5G wavelength, right? So your car know when to stop on a dime. Smart factories, real-time gaming, right? Kids, they want you to put the metaverse on. So it's like when you're doing fighting scenes or shooting people, it's like real time right there. And of course, part of that is the assisted reality, virtual reality, extended reality, and interactive live games, right? But I think for me, the big one is the connected vehicles, right? We're going to connect right to the 5G is going to go right to Verizon data center, and Verizon's data center is Amazon's compute. Then that compute's going to talk back to the Amazon region we just looked at, right? Edge computing, right? For cool free 99, you can get it. And two is search is the way to go, especially in the cloud. Everybody needs to get in the cloud, get those. If you're in IT, get those cloud skills. So those are some of the things from a 5G infrastructure that Amazon's doing, right? I think a lot of people don't realize how much computer power and how many big companies are actually going over to Amazon and using their services, right? So there's it. Offers the most competitive platform. AWS Outpost, which I haven't really talked about, is you actually can order Amazon equipment and put it in your data center, right? So if you're doing an S3 bucket, that S3 bucket, AWS Outpost, could be at your data center or your house, right? And it talks to local zones, right? Or talks to wavelength, right? So overview, AWS Outpost is infrastructure and service on-prem. AWS local zones is AWS infrastructure and services in large metro areas. AWS Wavelength is infrastructure and services at the provider of the 5G network, right? So those different use cases and different models. But once again, Amazon gives you data center for what you can afford and how much speed you need, right? Amazon's got something for you, right? So, and everything in the orange is Amazon's global network, right? They have their own fiber, their own dark fiber, and they're leasing stuff from telecom companies, right? So the bottom's the internet, right? So people don't realize is, and we talk about this, and the government talked about this, right? Is regular people, right? Are there going to be a two-tier system where the internet is going to be for regular people? And if you got money, and obviously if you're a big business now, you can just skip the internet and go on Amazon's global network, right? You're going to be moving at millisecond speed, right? So you can do one or the other, right? And we're going to talk about different features. So if you look at VPC Firewall up there, that's Transient Gateway, Client VPN, SD-WAN. Shout out to AO. He's working on all that on the ground floor, right? You got the client VPN, system defined, wide area network, NAT gateways. What else they got in here? Let's see, transient, direct connect right there, DX firewall. So we're gonna touch on a little bit of that, right? So not too much though, because we're gonna keep it high level, right? But different workloads. So if I want to skip the internet, right, and I'm trying to be Netflix or Amazon Prime, right? I'm gonna go on the Amazon network. I'm gonna skip the regular internet, right? It's a gazillion people on the internet. Packets are slow, packets are getting dropped, packets are getting ready for. I go on the Amazon Cloud Network, right? Not a lot of people in there, and Amazon controls the speed and congestion of that network, right? So, like I said, DX network gateway. So a lot of people don't realize it's gonna be a two-tier system in the future. If I got money, right, as a business right now, I'm gonna do the Amazon network. In the future, if you're personal and you got money, you're gonna go to Amazon or Azure. People don't realize Facebook got their own fiber in the ocean, right? So I think companies are setting up to be able to run their own network and skip the internet. Why would you skip the internet? It's just too congested, right? And you're depending on routers that you don't control as a company, right? So we'll touch on that. So like I said, the two-tier network. For y'all watch Elysium or Ready Player One, that's where we go to. So we're going to touch on a few things in here. Like I said, the NAT gateway, software-defined wired area networks, direct connects with the DX, branch offices, virtual private gateways. All right, so I'm just going to touch on a little bit from that high level. Shout out to my man AO. He's working on that, getting his skills up. So what is a straight AWS Client VPN is, right? So that's you working at home, get a VPN, especially from your company. VPN endpoint means it's coming from the internet. VPN endpoint means actually that's going to be AWS's network, right? Once you get there, you're going to skip it. You're going to stay inside the VPC. You can get to the client VPN Network Interfaces or EC2, right? So that's just a regular client. Most people VPN from home, especially if you're working. Everybody's got their their VPN. You got a VPN where Amazon always working on something to buy out their competitors. Facts, but that's the only issue people have is a lot of their competitors don't want to pay them money to compete against them. So a lot of those people are going to Azure. Right? If I'm Netflix, I don't want to be on Amazon's network because now I'm subsidizing Prime. Right? If you're a big retailers, Publix, Kroger in the Midwest or whatever, they just buy Whole Foods. So if your stuff is on Amazon, you supporting Whole Foods, right? And people don't realize Amazon, I did that a couple weeks ago. They own a ton of businesses. People don't realize. So that's one thing I think a lot of big businesses are trying to go to Azure because they're tired of funding their competitor, right? Because Amazon's in so many other businesses, right? So one of the first things is networking is get your client VPN endpoint, right? Get your TLS. Once you get the VPN point, you're going to be in AWS network as a region, right? So those are your NI interface cards, so you can be inside AWS network, right? So AWS Client VPN is an AWS managed availability and scalability service, enabling secure software remote access. It provides option of creating secure TLS remote clients and your Amazon VPC to securely access your resources, your AWS resources, and your on-prem resources over the internet, right? Plus availability zone, once again, your client VPN. The cool part in there, shout out to AO once again, is you got to remember is we talking about on-prem and AWS. So when you're on-prem, you want it to look like one network. So when I'm on-prem and I'm working on something and I say go to this RDP or SSH into the units, that units could be up in AWS and it's just going to look like one big network, right? So that's the beauty of it, right? So I was worried about and running, yeah, Amazon running ships out of the market while they do some facts. I remember it was $5 in the 80s. I should have bought a ton of it. I used to own a little bit of it and I sold it. That was a big mistake on me. But yeah, shout out to Amazon. And people don't realize Amazon's just getting started, man. Jeff Bezos is in space. He's trying to compete with Elon Musk. He's about to launch 2,000 satellites. He's about to do his Starlink. So you can get network connection from Amazon from their 2,000 satellites they're supposed to launch over the next 2 years. So, but once again, your client VPN, you log in from your client to your service from on-prem, get through a TLS VPN, right? Hopefully TLS 1112 or 13 and above from security. You get on Amazon, right? Once again, they're networking, making it happen, right? So once again, that's AWS Manage VPN. You got your virtual private gateway, your VPN tunnel. This is your corporate data center, right? With your customer gateway. That's what my man AO is over there. I keep calling him name out because he works, but that's your Cisco routers right there, right? So when you do that CIDR 9.192.168, which is private IP, so when I reach out to AWS VPC in that region, right? That should look like one network when you're working from your office, right? Or even if you're on the other side, I'm doing some work on AWS and I'm trying to get to a volume or NFS on the data center, right? I can go to virtual private gateway, get to that NAS over there, push some data, get some data. But once again, that should look like one network, right? And that's where the Cisco people come in to make that happen, right? Shout out to Network Bruh and all of those guys. Shout out to AO. Shout out to Dewan Lightfoot. Shout out to Cyber Insights. Those are some of the networking guys I hang out with on here. So, yes, it did. Trust like it ain't no more. So, yeah, so part of that, right, is getting this networking to look like one network. Like you said, we got our Cisco routers on there. Got our VPN into AWS. Looks like one network. If we got any problems, we shoot up AO, shout out. I was doing static tables today on the live, right? Putting my route tables into my my virtual router on AWS from my private subnet. It goes to my public. I wanted to route over to my on-prem corporate network. How do I set all those static tables up to make it go smoothly, right? Shout out to AO. So once again, AWS Management VPN. A lot of times, right? Remember this one, we just had one, all right? We're a corporation, it could go down, right? So we want to have AWS Manage VPN Redundancy, right? I told people I was studying for my AWS certification. So one of the questions they ask is, how do you set up a redundancy from your corporate network to your AWS, right? So you say, I will have 2 managed VPN customer gateways. Both of these will be my man AO. He's going to set up my Cisco routers. A lot of times, this probably will be virtual, really, a lot of times, be on different subnets in the company, but a lot of times this will be virtual. Because the last company, we bought a Cisco router. It was $250,000. I tried to get 2. They looked at me like I was crazy. I was like, I do security compliance for federal agencies. A lot of people don't know that. So long story short, I said, we need 2 Cisco routers for redundancy. They go, you're crazy, PBO. We're not paying $250,000 twice. We're gonna make a virtual router for the redundant one, right? Because I always tell my people, and even like my mother, money's not infinite, right? So some things you can't have a virtual duplicate of $250,000 Cisco router. But Cisco's probably a little cheaper now. That was in the early 2000s. They're probably cheaper, but there's a Tesla, Amazon going to split this. Oh, facts. They definitely gonna split. So once again, when you talk about customer gateway, you want to have redundancy. So that'd be hardware, or at least virtual, right? You want to have that. So you want to have our redundancy. It's definitely a question. So So one of the big companies, how they have set up, and that's what we were looking at when we were looking at our Amazon infrastructure, right? So we got our corporate network here. We got our Amazon cloud here. The direct connect means this will be Verizon or T-Mobile, right? They're not going over the internet, so they actually have DX connects inside your corporation that goes to their, I call them CLACs, or local locations for computing hardware. So that line goes directly to their data center, right? Like we talked about before. So Amazon at T-Mobile and Verizon, they actually have their racks inside their data center, right? So it comes into your customer racks, wired to their Amazon's rack, then it goes directly through Amazon's network, right? Directly to an Amazon data center. Hopefully the closest one to your customer, right? So it never hits the internet, right? So my man AO would set this up. He would put his rack into AWS Verizon, right? A lot of times when you go to a cable or a telecom to actually get your internet connections going, right, for your company. But a lot of times you can do a direct connect to Verizon or T-Mobile. Then once again, inside there, AWS has their hardware that goes directly to their data center, right? So a lot of large company has this set up. Right? So two, you have 10 gigabit speed or 100 gigabit speed, right? So now you're just talking about what's up, Ghost MKC. Uh, so that's when once again you talking about big companies when you're going direct connect, you connecting to one of the telecom companies or one of the cable companies, right, to their cage, AWS cage to theirs, right? Because a lot of companies they don't do directly to the internet, right? They have a direct pipe to um, a provider, right? Cross connect between the AWS DX router and the customer partner DX router, right? And once again, this skips the internet, right? Once again, for congestion or not direct connect, right? Once again, AO is working in the knock. He's setting these up. He will set up his customer router, goes to the, I'm saying Verizon or whoever, T-Mobile's data center. In that same data center, AWS's cage. So you got those wired up, then boom, directly to AWS data center. We talked about the local regions or the 5G wavelength, right? So now we get millisecond response, right? So if you got the next killer app, right, you want millisecond response, but once again, you got to pay for that, right? I'll check out that out. Look, yeah, check that out for the Azure. So then once we talked about that direct connect, right, it's going through Amazon, right? You got the VPN public, the direct connect out the box, you're directly set up, has no security on it, right? Because it's not on the internet, it's direct connects. For somebody actually to hack your packets, they will actually have to tap into, which has been done before, tap into the Verizon's data center, your pipe, or Amazon's pipe, right? Now that's on the internet, so they will have to physically tap into that, right? Or hack in there and try to redirect those packets. So they didn't secure it because they were like it wasn't over the internet, right? But once again, I do federal compliance. They say you need to have IPsec VPN or DX VPN or FX over DX VPN. Somehow you got to encrypt that tunnel of traffic. The standard way to do it is to do an IPsec VPN, right? So in talking AWS Direct Connect, even though it's on their own pipe and the Verizon's pipe, they still want you to encrypt that work, right? We trust no one, so once again, that's what it looks like. Customer AWS Direct Connect Gateway. We got IPsec over the top with the private VPN. Usually, when you work in AWS, you're in a big company, you're gonna be in multiple regions in the United States. We saw the picture where it has data centers, then it had local edges, right? So these are in those locations, right? So when you come from your corporate office, you're gonna have VPCs and regions around the United States, right? How you're moving data. And two is your app could be popular in Cali and one could be popular in Ohio, right? So whatever region is close to your customers is where you would spin up your VPC app, right? But coming from your data center, right, the direct connect is going to get you into Amazon's network. And what region you put it in, what edge location. Once again, 5 wavelength. So depends on where you put it. But another way is called AWS VPN Cloud Hub. So this business right here has a lot of different locations and district offices. That's what we call them. You got Los Angeles, Chicago. So you could do all that into your customer gateway, do a VPN tunnel, what's called a Transient Gateway. That Transient Gateway, once again, is going to get you in the Amazon region. Then depending on where you want it, right, you could do it. Right. So the thing here is customer gateway. That's what my man AO is working in the center. We're going to set up a VPN tunnel to AWS, right? We saw direct connect. This we're going to say we can't afford a direct connect, so we're going to do a VPN tunnel over the internet, right? It's encrypted then to the Transient Gateway, and the Transient Gateway is going to get you in what region of the United States you want to be in, right? So once again, AWS gives you different type of networking depending on what you as a customer needs, right? So my smaller customers who don't have that direct connect money, right? You renting rack space at Verizon and T-Mobile, right? You can go straight over the internet, just VPN connection, Transient Gateway, standard setup. Most of your large companies already got a customer gateway, right? They're moving network traffic inside their own prem, especially if you're in different locations in the United States. Right? So all that's already set up. So just VPN tunnel into your gateway into your region. So the big deal here is district offices or smaller offices do a VPN Cloud Hub, and the hub is the Transient Gateway. And the Transient Gateway makes it easier to talk to Amazon VPCs, which is their networking in the cloud, right? Super high level. We're just going to touch on it a little bit. Right? Getting ready for my AWS certification test, right? So part of the cloud here is once again virtual gateway deployed at the AWS site. Network traffic may go between the VPC and the remote office. Right, that's the VPN tunnel. That's the customer gateway. Shout out to the Cisco ASNs. Those who use ASN numbers. Network traffic between the office can be routed over the Ipsec VPN. Right. So Ipsec is just a VPN tunnel you set up to go over that. Everything needs to be encrypted. So remote office connect to the virtual private gateway and a hub and spoke model. Each unique office must use a unique BGP ASN, right? So if you're talking about BGP is usually encryption coming from on-prem to AWS, right? So that's it. Do you have AWS? I was wondering what's the difference between developer, sysop. I actually had the foundation one. I'm actually studying for the sysop goes in more detail. Go check my man out, Cyber Insight. He's studying actually for the certified sysop. You're actually talking about more sys operations. So you're going to really go detail into backup, setting up, building VPCs from cloud formation. So you're going to do more system operations. I'm doing the associate architect. So you're mostly talking about how would you set up like a VPN cloud hub, right? A lot of times I don't physically set it up. I come up with the best way to set it up, right? So sysops is going to put you on there. What was the other one? Developers is going to talk more as like I'm a Java developer. So when I was looking at it, when you develop in Java and you create your code, what's the best way to deploy it? I'm going to do Beanstalk or CloudFormation. Beanstalk is going to automatically spin up my infrastructure. From a programming standpoint, I'm going to talk about pipeline, continuous integration, continuous development. I'm going to talk about code star, code commit. So those are things from a from a developer standpoint, James, that you would talk about from the 3 different ones. Then off of those 3 different ones, the associate level, architect, sysops, and developer. Then they got the specialty, security, machine learning. There's like 4 or 5 of those. I might bring those up, James. Let me know if you need a little more detail. I know I skimmed up. So those 3 are at the associate level. SysOps is more what are you going to do from a system perspective? How do you push out code to each individual EC2 instance, right? From an architectural level, I just know you can be done. I just don't go into the actual details of that. So from a developer standpoint, you do it from a pipeline. From a sysop, how would you patch it programmatically? Doing a run script and running that on 100 EC2 instances, right? So I think those three search focuses on three different things as part of the architecture. I'm going over some SQL. I love SQL, man. I've done SQL for 20 years, Helmet. Yeah, I've done Oracle, which they're not anti-SQL, but they're pretty close. So yeah, I've done SQL forever. Working on my SQL on Linux and having issues. Yep, I was spinning up my SQL databases as part of the architecture. So once again, though, here's the Cloud VPN. Those are the ASNs. A lot of times those are on your Cisco routers. What is that ASN, and how do you get it to go into a virtual private gateway into your subnet, public and private, right? How do you go from public and automatically have it go to a certain office, right? This subnet's gonna go to this office. This subnet's gonna go to that office. This subnet's gonna go to that office, right? So how do you set that up, and how do you make that happen? Once again, James, let me know if you need me to go in a little more detail. I could actually probably bring it up on my screen and kind of look at it, because I was actually looking at the developer one too. Certification from AWS. My brain when I say for a while. Yeah, shout out to that from a SQL standpoint. So what is VPC peering, right? So inside there you have VPC A. VPC peering means they both can look at each other. They have to have different routing CIDR blocks at the bottom so they don't step at each other. But Amazon Virtual Private Cloud enables you to launch AWS research in the virtual network. VPC peering connects the network between two VPCs that enable you to route traffic between them. Using private IP addresses or IPv6 instance, and either VPC can communicate with each other. Within the same network, you can create VPC peering connections between your own VPC or within VPC and another's. AWS accounts, the VPC can be in different regions, also known as inter-region VPC connection, right? So a lot of times one VPC could be test and the other VPC could be production. And I need to get some stuff that I've tested over to production, right? How would I do that, right? Or I could have a resource in part of my company, like we talked about multiple divisions. So I got a user in A that needs some resources from the company in B. So how do I get my account in A to use the resources in B, right? One could be VPC clearing, one could be gateway, one could be endpoint interface, right? So there's a couple ways to do it, but VPC peering, if you got just two simple VPCs, is an easy way to do it, right? We just talked about this earlier. Direct connect with AWS Transit over VPN, right? Because direct connect wasn't secure. We got you over to Transient Gateway because this office needs to talk to more than one VPC. So you use Transient Gateway. Direct connect to your Transient Gateway over VPN tunnel would be a solution, right? You got super quick speed with the direct connect. You got the VPN to make sure it's encrypted. Then you got the gateway to talk between your VPCs, right? Once again, when you're studying for your certifications, a lot of times they give you scenarios like that. We're small. We got multiple VPCs. We need to talk from our on-prem network. What's the best way or most economical way to do that, right? So you can say direct connect, not economical, probably the best way. VPN cloud, it's going to go over the internet, so it's not as secure, right? So those are some, and we do that in another video too, is go through some of those questions and figure out, what's the best way. So using public VIF on AWS Direct Connects enable end-to-end IPsec encryption connections between your network and regionalized router for your VPCs over private dedicated connection. Consider taking this approach when you want to simplify management and minimize the cost of IPsec VPN to your multiple VPCs in the same regions. With low latency and consistent of network experience benefits of private direct connections over internet-based VPN. The BGP connection is established between the AWS Direct Connect and your routers of the public. Fifth, another BGP section or static router will be established between the AWS Transit Gateway and your router. So that's really getting into detail. So long story short, it's a secure way to do it. Direct connect, avoiding the internet, avoiding connections. Gonna have a super solid speed wise because it's not going on the internet. They said minimize price. I think this is super pricey, right? From that standpoint, right? I appreciate Mr. Wade. Everybody go check out my man Black Heights. My day ties. Shout out, have a blessed weekend. I appreciate it, man. Sorry for your loss, dude, man. I was in the cloud studying, man. You always drop me down. Sorry for your loss, man. Everybody go check it out, man. It's, Brother Black Heights helping you get in IT, helping you get your resume, helping you get into the IT and giving you mentorship, right? I tell people, not one of my strong suits. I talk to people, but I give people advice. I'm not a mentor. So I usually send people to Black Heights, Textual Chatter on that realm. Both of those guys are putting in great work, great patience. I'm gonna have to sneak into one of his when he pulls up into Chicago. Go check him out on Patreon. I'm sure I'm gonna join this group shortly, but definitely one of the great guys on the internet, dropping gems in the Patreon. So I'm gonna be in there. He usually sends a couple people to me to talk about cybersecurity. So, like I said, I'm here for your advice, but he sets you up with a real program and steps to get in the industry, steps for you to build. PBO don't do that, but no, shout out to him. So, what is a private link? So a lot of times from a cybersecurity perspective, once again, networking, we got a VPC that we're working on for our company. There's a service provider VPC with some things. It could be ServiceNow, it could be Salesforce, right? Their service, if you connect on it without the private link, it's going to take you over the internet. I do compliance, so FISMA, the DOD, and all those compliance, so they don't want you to go over the internet. So I'm gonna set up a private link endpoint to a network load balancer in the service provider, right? And that's going to be not over the internet. That's going to be on AWS infrastructure. From that standpoint, though, right, is that's still networking, right? It's not networking like from Cisco router like my man AO, but you need to understand networking in the cloud. Shout out to my man Helmet. Even if that's in Azure, Google, GCP, or AWS, right? They also have their own cloud and routing and how they're doing it. You as a networking guy, at least at a high level, needs to understand what that is. So like my man asked me, like as a solution architect, I understand what this is. I understand what's most secure. I understand the speed of it too, and the network time and high level what the price is. But AO is gonna he's gonna configure this, right? He's gonna put their customer gateway stuff in there. I'm not gonna do that, right? Even as a solution architect, I'm not gonna do that, right? I'm gonna make sure we're doing the private link because I think that's the best thing. So he's gonna set that up, right? AO is the network guru. My man, network bruh is my man, Dewan Lightfoot, right? So as a solution architect, I help come up with the solution because my man Antoine Wade knows is he sells. I could design something, and Antoine go like, dude, the customer can't afford that PBO. You got to come up with something cheaper, right? So Antoine's dealing with the customer. So me as a solution architect and as security, I got to give him options, right? Because the customer's like, that's cool, but we can't afford $250,000 Cisco router, right? We just looked at the Cloud Hub, right? We can do cheaper Cisco unit and not do the direct connect and go straight through a VPN tunnel. We're over the internet, right? Little congestion, a little more. We can get hacked a little more, right? Because we're over the tunnel, but it's a lot more affordable, right? So me as a solution architect, I got to work with the SysOp guys. I definitely got to work with Antoine Wade in sales, right? Because he's got to pitch it to the customer, right? So he's gonna know their price point, and us working together, right? Because I actually help a lot of companies get into a corporation. So one of the things is security, the other thing is price. And as a solution architect, I got to come up with the best solution for the best price that a customer is going to sign up for, right? So that's kind of it at a high level when you're talking about sales and shout out. But yeah, so just reiterate that because my man was in here. So solution architect working with sysop, working with security, right? We looking at different networking things that has different security, that has different speeds, right? And different quality of services, right? You as a solution architect or understanding of that, right? I gotta come up with the best solution and pricing. So I'm not gonna understand the details to hook a Cisco router up and put the BGP on there in a direct link, right? We got my man AO Network Bud, Dewan Lightfoot, Cyber Insight. He's in the mix, right? Those guys specialize in network. But me as a solution architect, I got to work with those guys, especially from a security perspective. And from a security perspective, is because that's what this channel is about, is depending on two is what compliance are we, HIPAA, FERPA, FISMA, right? So in two, they're going to tell you what you can do, not from a compliance standpoint too, right? So there's a lot of things that goes into helping the sales get that right, and getting the right solution, right? So real quick, AWS PrivateLink enables you to connect to some AWS services. The services hosted by other AWS account referred to as endpoints and supported by AWS Marketplace partner services, private IP address in your VPC. The interface endpoints are created directly inside your VPC using elastic network interfaces and IP addresses in your VPC subnets. This means the VPC security group can be used to manage your endpoints, right? So inside that private link, right, that could be S3, Dynamodb interface. I could put IAM security for what resource can do that, and to what people can actually call it, right? So that's part of, once again, security with networking and make that all work together, right? So once again, we got a private link and enables you to connect to AWS services hosted, referred to as endpoints, and supported by the marketplace. Private IP addresses in your VPCs to work directly inside your VPCs using elastic network interfaces and IP addresses. Right, so this is VPC peering, that you got multiple regions around the United States or even around the globe. This could be, I think they had some in Israel, some in Germany, and this is United States, right? So that AWS Transit peering of a direct connect using private link, right? So you can talk to your different regions around the world. And two is, once again, we're talking about what's the best thing from a customer standpoint, price point, and security standpoint, right? Usually they give you a requirement of what that should look like. All right, so we got to make sure all that balances out. So S3 is basically just a file system. I think it was the first thing AWS actually put on the internet, right? So Amazon Web Service, once again, S3 bucket, but not transverse the internet to reach the public endpoint. AWS offers a mechanism called a VPC endpoint to meet this requirement. So once again, for the bucket, which is a file system, but not transverse the internet to reach the public endpoint. So VPC keeps it, that's what we talked about earlier, right? Keeping it on Amazon's networking that they control in their own, right? So Amazon VPC is connected to support public AWS services, third-party applications over the AWS network. This is appropriate to use for workloads that should not communicate over public network, all right? So if you look at it, this is the customer. We talked about AWS Direct or through a VPN. We talked about the transit gateways touching different regions, right? But here is the gateway endpoint and the interface endpoint. So when it goes to talk to the S3 bucket, which remember is a global services, if you don't need endpoint, it's going to talk through it over the internet, right? Makes it a little more dangerous. We don't want that, so we're going to do gateway endpoint or interface endpoint, right? Once again, the AWS PrivateLink. This just keeps it all going over the internet and stays on Amazon's network, right? That's the big deal. Speaking of HIPAA, let's see what's going on. We have no amount of security was practicing. Like I call medical officer. They gave me facts. That's huge, and you're 100% right. I used to do a lot of HIPAA work, and the main thing is end user training, which just sucks. It's just so much data out there, and you're right. And two is people are trying to be helpful, but that you are correct. So for us, it's user training is just number one, not just on HIPAA or anything, because you can have all the great part of this, and we got the endpoint, and we got the Transit Gateway, and we got the VPN, and we got Route 53 with the fail. But you're right. Like, if I can just call and get that information, none of this really matters, right? So long story here, just the gateway endpoint and the interface endpoint. You go through S3 bucket or DynamoDB or any of their internet stuff. You keep it on off the internet and keep it on AWS's network. Right? So that's really one. DynamoDB is the same thing. We're gonna just see the network. So this is the DynamoDB, which is a database, right? This is a file system for S3. When you save and you need to save to a database, somebody's talking about SQL. This actually is not a SQL database, but it's a database. But you can go through the DynamoDB endpoint. Once again, it's going to keep it off the internet and keep it on AWS's network, right? So from a security perspective, a lot more secure. So it talks about the cloud WAN. So once again, now we're talking about large companies. We talked about VPC peering. So I'm just going to kind of flow through this. So here is, if you look at the bottom, let me get that off. You see North America, Europe, and Asia. Right now, you're a big company. I used to work for a Fortune 500 pharmaceutical company, and they had offices around the world, right? So if you got offices around the world, you don't want to do VPC peering or direct connect or that, right? There's a new thing called Cloud WAN by Amazon. So you can do a backbone running everything on Amazon Cloud, hook your different offices and regions worldwide, hook it through your WAN, and you cut the internet off. You just run it actually on all on AWS backbone, right? So global create connectivity across regions, manage dynamic routing and built in. You can attach VPCs, VPNs, software-defined WANs, client VPN, and firewalls, right? So once again, you're on Amazon's backbone, you're off the internet, right? And these are your offices, North America, Europe. So you see data centers, software defined. You got people using client VPN. You got remote offices using DX connections to be quicker. But all that's going over global WAN of AWS, right? So I don't think a lot of people realize that, once again, Amazon has this vast network that they control around the world that they use for their large customers, right? You got to pay for it, but once again, so when you're using their backbone, you got VPC routing, you can large flat global network, segment global network, advanced automation, right? So if you got offices and you want to automatically run a job and have it post into your Asia data center, you can do that without going through a lot of different hoops and trying to connect across a crazy internet around the world. You just jump on AWS backbone, right? So they control all that routing, static traffic for you, right? So once again, a little more detail. You see DX port-to-port communications, transport for SD-WANs and VPNs, and centralized internet egress, right? So shout out to my man AO. He's in a knot doing some of this, right? VPN clients, static routes, DX routes, putting up customer routers, locking down Cat 5 cable, right? All that stuff is part of that, right? So once again, at the top, we want to do a little more firewall to make sure we control when you come off of AWS's network and get onto the internet, right? You want to control that traffic in there. So they're showing you that, of course, they have their own firewalls with their own servers, right? We talked about the Transit Gateway versus their core network edge. I'm not going to read that. The pluses from Transit Gateway and the pluses from core network. Core network, so you new. I think it's only a year old, so a lot of people are not using it yet. I'm hoping to do some proof of concepts with my man Network Bruh. He's got hardware in his house. Shout out to him. So I'm actually want to use his network to set up some core stuff through different VPCs and check it out. So I need to get at him. And since Amazon owns Ring, would they be able to fully fulfill a subpoena to view data, regardless of where the camera is being used worldwide? Um, the reason I pause is what Amazon Ring did is Amazon Ring doesn't keep your video feed. I think you control the video feed and you own the video feed. The video feed goes up to Amazon, but I think they made you responsible for it. So from a subpoena, because they always get subpoena, if they have the data, they will fulfill the subpoena. But if you look, especially Ring, and I'm gonna do a video on it, they were asked authorities to investigate. Oh yeah, they would. They do that now. Is Ring is the biggest surveillance thing in the United States. People don't realize, but if you look, a lot of their feeds are already going through to authorities, to the police office helmet. If you Google Ring and authorities, they were giving you 50% discount, but your feed was going directly to your local sheriff. So I think a lot of their feeds are already going to the police department without them doing a subpoena. But if you produce a subpoena, they would try to pull it. But to be honest, for my national surveillance, most of their feeds are already going to the police office, sight unseen. I think a lot of their stuff going to the FBI, sight unseen. So I don't think they need a subpoena. If you Google recognition, REK, there was a big thing about that because they have Ring, then they have facial recognition. So as that stream is coming through, if there's a search warrant out or FBI, they just take that stream and look for your face on that stream automatically. So from that point, I don't think they need a subpoena. A lot of companies become like, oh, not coming. They are already here. Tell me, not becoming, because Ring, they're already doing it. Like I said, they're already sending it, so they're already there, right? So long story short, out to my man AO Cisco Merkle. You can actually have look at the top subnet. There's actually a service you can actually bring a Cisco router inside a VPC and run it like it's virtual. Why would you do that? If I'm running Merkle vMX on-prem and in the cloud, they automatically connect as long as my VPN tunnel is good, right? So a lot of times you can just run whatever you're running on-prem and just run it as a service. Why would you do that? It makes the routing a lot easier because some of Cisco stuff is proprietary as far as communications, but it's great. So you can run proprietary in the cloud, right? We looked at different ways to connect your on-prem to your off-prem. So yeah, so for them, they're already there, especially Ring. I think Ring is the biggest. And they just come out and just tell people. And two is a lot of your more gated communities. They're turning their cameras a lot. They have cameras already pointing at the street. So as you walking down a gated community on the street, they're taking your streams and sending it to police. So if you got a search warrant or looking at you and you're in a certain wrong area, they're gonna pull up on you, right? So that's already been done. I might do a video of that because that, along with what ISIS is doing with the kids and foreign people, it's incredible the amount of public data they're pumping into it. So here, yeah, freely give, yeah, facts, freely, man, facts. So yeah, so we just was looking at the Merkle. I'm not going to go to it. And once again, if you look at the top, that's the VPC Peering, which used to be a pain, right? A to B, B to C, and C back to A, right? So all those peering routers and stuff. Here is the LAN we just looked at, right? It's just one big backbone. So I could go to any VPC or router, right? That's the core network. We got the Merkle Cisco routing our different locations. Let me unhide that at the bottom. Now we're talking about big corporations. When you got a North American office and a Europe office, and that's the Pacific office where I'm over, right? Once again, I used to work for a couple Fortune 500 companies that had offices around the world, and how you have to communicate with them. And we had a Japan office. You would drop a file in the host, and it looked like it was sitting in the next room. It was so quick, right? But that's because they had this type of technology, right? The cool thing is Cisco stuff's so expensive, you just jump on AWS's backbone, right? I think that's going to bring down the cost of global networking, right? So it's already there. Going to start. So I guess AI is getting hard. No, it's true. It's true. It's AI is just going to be a monster. I think they're trying to figure out how to do it, because if you work at regimes like China, Japan, it's just off the chain. I think it was Japan. Their surveillance could actually take your temperature. So if you actually had a temperature off their surveillance, they would actually force you not to come out the house for the CV right at that time. So some of the surveillance systems for authoritarian regimes are quite impressive. Their life amount of milliseconds is crazy. Yeah. So it's crazy. So that was it. So I'm gonna go back to the top. So so if you look at the top, that's Amazon's worldwide network. So I don't think people realize how much data that they're moving, and even though that's worldwide, even that network in the United States is impressive. That's why you can get your packages in 4 hours, right? When you order stuff, then with their network, their routings. But then part of that is, how do you get to that particular warehouse? And two is, I did a video on that, is they have a ton of robots that look like Rumba, and they actually bring the contents to the packer. You're not going to need the pickers, right? So all that together with their world-class network, right? That's how you become a $1 trillion company, right? And you control the world, right? So let me drop the link if anybody's bored. But but two is, you got to be milliseconds, because we talked about that, is the when you talk about autonomous transactions with 5G, you got to be moving in milliseconds, right? A lot of that's going to be on board for the car, but a lot of that's going to be, where my location, where's this 5G pole, right? 5G poles it's going to be a lot more of them, right? So they're going to be actually tell you per, inches of where you at. Because I remember when Google Maps first came out, you used to pass the exit, then it used to turn. Now I'd be like, you got 1,000 feet, you need to get over into the left, right, 2 right lanes, right? It'd be right on cue, right? So as you get more and more those 5G poles, they're gonna tell you within inches where you're at, right? So that's going to be the interesting part. I think it's just the first and second generation. I mean, yeah, you got to look, man. I'm pre-beeper. I done seen a lot of that. So no, you're right. So I think the next, once 5G really gets rolled out good, I think it's going to be another level, and I think that's going to take autonomous driving to the next level. Is 5G and the speed of that, right? All right. Then along with that is facial recognition as you move down the street. And a lot of people don't realize is the cable companies were actually splitting their routers in half, and half of their routers were used for 5G or hotspots when people were driving, right? So a lot of big cable companies were, a lot of people didn't realize that they were floating that out, because you really only use a small part of your cable box now. People quit. So they were thinking about making it a hotspot. So as you drive down with your phone or whatever, or your autonomous car, it was use your cable box as a hit to the internet, because they want you to be 100, connected 98% of the time while you driving or doing anything, right? And most people now have cable boxes for their Netflix, for whatever, right? For cable, right? And it's a lot of that box is not being used, right? They were just thinking about splitting the other part of that out and use it for a hotspot, which is kind of cool, right? I don't think I would let mine be used for a hotspot, but it could be used for a hotspot, right? So look at that 5G. I think that 5G was at the top, right? Because we talking about local zone locations, right? That's in a lot of part of the United States, and they have one edge zones. It has even more. I should have brought that slide up. So you get enough covered, then you put your 5G poles out. You got a lot of it covered, right? Of how that's going to work. Oh, what's up, everybody? Go check out Keep It Tech. I appreciate you, man. Go check out his course, a great course for Linux. I think between networking and Linux, I think that's the basis of security. I think it's networking, and right on top of that is Linux, right? When you're trying to get in some security, we always talk about fundamentals, and that's definitely one of the fundamentals. And shout out to Keep It Tech. He's been in the game a long time. Interviewed me about 3 or 4 times, just helped me out a ton in this YouTube game. So I would definitely give him a shout out. Check out his course. But yeah, so when we talk about surveillance, you got so many local locations along with 5G. Then the police are just putting up, and even cities and counties, they're relying on webcams now to see people and track people, right? To come and find you quicker, right? Send our prayers that crazy shooting that just happened, right? So they want people, the first responders, get out quicker, and technology makes that happen, right? So that's all I got. I was just winding down once again, studying for that AWS certification. So I'm getting old. It's a little hard for me to study for that. So study for that associate architect. I'm feeling pretty good about it, but we'll see. I always feel pretty good until you take the test. But no, I dropped the link if y'all want to come up. But yeah, so once again, I'm 50. You got to start to stay current in this business. Technology changed. One of my subscribers hurt my feelings. They're like, PBO, talk about the changes of technology in your 30 years. I'm like, that made me feel old. But no, shout out. I always joke out and say, I'm pre-beeper. I remember there was no cell phones. Your beeper stopped. You had to stop at a payphone and put a quarter in it. So now, we went from a quarter in a payphone to you got more power into your cell phones and what they took to get to moon. I saw a poor man talking about Cash App me. He was paying, his sign had his Cash App on the bottom. So technologies came a long way, man. So we went from, I had a bag phone that was the size of a laptop. So like I said, we came a long way. So look, so yeah, so just to see technology changes and the stuff. And 2 is, like I said, I'm 50, man. My mom lived till 91, so I'm hoping to make it to 81. So I want to see autonomous cars, the only verse, and what else I want to see? Star Trek. I want the thing to scan your body and just tell you everything you got going on. They ain't gonna need to cut in you, so they all getting there. So all that technology's coming. So yeah. So I think just the advent of just technology. I just don't just stuff we take for granted. I was talking to somebody about the Queen might remember. I didn't want to age her out though. I remember there used to be typing pools. There used to be like 50 people typing papers. Everybody had, like, all the executives and supervisors had their own administrative assistant. Now the only one to get somebody to type their paper is the C-suite. Everybody else, you got to type your own paper, man. I remember I worked at a Fortune 500 company. I shit you not, it was probably 1,000 secretaries that worked there. So you got to remember that all those people are gone, right? There used to be just secretaries. They're gone, right? Like cashier in Walmart. Every time you go, it's self-scan, right? So as you see things come and go, right? Just technology, just slowly just coming and going. Jack, shout out to the rewinding cassette. I know about that, man. So there was somebody talking about millennials texting. I remember I was driving down the highway doing 80, looking for my favorite CD. So it's just different things. Trying to find my favorite CD to put it in there. Bump Tupac, all eyes on me. You cool, boy. I'll check out the replay. So yeah, man, I see. I'm gonna call you later. Will you be? Yeah, that's cool. Did you put a time on there, Wally? Yeah, just put a time on there. I'm open the rest of the day. Like I said, just watching a little basketball and study. So we can definitely make that happen. While I check my email, I got to do a better job. Don't forget those CD. Yeah, I'm trying to I'm looking for my CD as I'm driving 80 down the highway. So it's just different. I'm a spring chick about some facts. So that's why I tell people you got to stay on technology. over the next 20 years, people don't realize there's going to be 30 million jobs going to disappear, right? The first one's going to be the cashier, right? You're going to become a cashier. There's going to be two of them. They're not cashier. If it makes something, they got to scan your liquor, scan your cigarettes, put in the code, but cashiers is going to be gone. If you look at Go too, that Amazon's working on, you don't even go through a cashier. You just put it in your bag, and the cameras figure out when you scan your phone that that's your stuff, and they're just going to deduct it from your credit card, right? So there's just new technology every year. Take mixtape facts. The big rope channel. Facts. That's me, man, before the time. So I remember the big boom boxes, man. Now we got streaming. I remember everybody had the stack stereo with the glass doors. You had your receiver, your turntable. Right now, you just put your phone on there and you just stream your music from your favorite streaming service, right? So it's just technology, man. Same check, start bagging up those skills. Yeah, facts. So that's coming up. So there's just a lot. This the last thing I'm gonna say. I'm gonna let it go is call centers. If you look at Amazon's voice recognition, you look at Amazon, IBM voice recognition for call centers. That's gonna be, and they're getting there now. The first rung is call center, right? The next one you're gonna get to a human. They're getting so good now, right? That your call centers are probably going to be, they're not going to go away, but they're going to be super small. Most of them aren't in the United States anymore anyway. So the call centers are going to call centers are going to shrink way down because what you ask for and how you ask for. Facts. And that's going to speed it up. Engineering Cam is correct. Jobs right now are leaving with the looming recession, speeding up the automation. Let me show engineering that 5. Yeah, Amazon's got the 5 wavelength where you can put your data center directly in with Verizon and T-Mobile. And the big deal for that, right? So it's in T-Mobile. You don't have to go over through the whole internet, right, for most things. And the big thing in there was machine learning for health diagnosis was part of that thing. So it's going quick. One more here. I have one to cashier. Yeah, it's done. Cashier's over with, right? So, like I said, just technology is going to speed that up. And 2 is one, and I noticed that too. If you misscan it, the facial recognition is looking at you. So if they think you skipped something, it'll make your light come on to force the head cashier to come over and look at your stuff and make you rescan it. So I put my keys on it, so they thought I did something wrong. So it told me to rescan all my items, and she came over. So they're using recognition to figure out if you skipped the stuff you should scan. So a lot of that stuff is getting pre-built in there. Oh, that's true, Helmet. There's a lot of new companies that are coming out, and a lot of old companies that are components. So that's what. No, that's true. They're coming. So. I'm gonna shut it down. Everybody have a nice Sunday. Everybody have a nice week. My bad. Everybody have a nice week. Monday's here, another work week. They making me come in, so I'm a little grumpy. But shout out to just having a job in these times sometimes. So I'm not complaining much. So once again, I appreciate everybody for joining me. Wally, I'll check my email and see we can make that happen. Once again, I probably start doing a few more AWS since I'm studying for my cert. So I was trying to get some of that TAM investor, accredited investor money. I'm trying, man. Everybody treat yourself well. Everybody have a good week. I'm out. I'll check my email.